Let's get sweaty.
Hello and welcome to the Shenmue Dojo Show, Season 4, Episode 7. This is the Shenmue 2 Music Special, and I am Skill Jim, and I'm joined, as always, by the smooth, relaxing, dulcet tones of Matthew Oliver. How are you doing, Matt?
Dulcet tones? That's the new one on me. I'm good, man. You alright?
I'm doing fine, thanks, mate. Yeah, this is going to be a more relaxed episode today. We're going to be playing music for the most part. Yeah, we're going to be taking you on a bit of a Shenmue 2 musical journey, taking you from the streets of Wanchai through to the metropolis of Kowloon's buildings, and then onwards to the scenic greenery of GUILIN. Matt, just before we get into some music here, I just wondered, what do you think is so special, or what's so special to you about the music that you can find in Shenmue 2?
Do you know what? I think the music in Shenmue 2 conveys a massive range of emotions, moments, settings. Shenmue 1 obviously does that as well, but you've got quite a homely feel to Shenmue 1. You haven't got as many settings, as many people, as many incidences that happen. But Shenmue 2 has to communicate through its music, through its atmosphere, a massive range of emotion, feeling, characters, epic moments, then leading obviously into GUILIN, which is this very calm, but I'm trying to think, calm, reclusive and daring at the same time, and that's I think why I think Shenmue 2's music is so good and so special, because it spreads across such a massive breadth of topics that it covers, and does it brilliantly. It's one of the best soundtracks in gaming.
It is. It's got such a good contrast from, you know, the bustling streets type of music, the battle music, and then when you reach that GUILIN section, the calm, it does calm you down as a player. It's very emotive, the music, I find, and when you compare it to, you know, Shenmue 1, like you mentioned a little bit, with, you've got a sort of a contrast there that is more industrial sounding music, and I know you get the kind of the free roaming emotional music that happens, the free 1 to 15 tracks that play throughout Shenmue 1 and sort of build upon each other depending on Ryo's emotion at the time. I love that aspect of Shenmue 1, and obviously Shenmue 2 sort of drops that aspect, and we've got like the standardized area music for each section. So Wanchai's got its own music. Each time you go into like a new location, like South Carmain Court, for example, you've got this iconic music now because you've heard it so many times, and there's like the day and night theme, and it's a contrast that still kind of works. Like obviously in Shenmue 1, that free roaming, how the music sort of evolves over the time, I think that is genius. But then, you know, in the same breath, the music in Shenmue 2 is so good that it doesn't need to have that developing emotional music, because each track is amazing as it is anyway.
Yeah.
And there's such a wealth of music in Shenmue 2 that, I mean, I don't even know how they would have incorporated that aspect as on top of the already insane amount of music that we actually have as fans. I mean, if you take the music that's in Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2, even before we had Shenmue 3, we already had like probably 600 pieces of music between the two games. There's an insane amount of music. Obviously throw in like the Shenmue Online, the unreleased music as well that's found on the discs. There's such a wealth of music, and obviously we're not going to be able to cover all of that music today, but we're going to take some of my favourites, some of Matt's favourites, and hopefully we'll have a really nice show for you today. So just before we dig in to the music, just want to make a mention of the artists, or the composers rather, that are credited, and this is found on the Shenmue 2 Wikipedia. So quite a few names actually. I don't know if all of these actually composed in Shenmue 2 or this is sort of like an amalgamation from Shenmue 1's composers as well. But I'll run through the names. So we've got Takanobu Mitsuyoshi, Yuzo Koshiro, Ryuji Ichi, Takeshi Yanagawa, Satoshi Miyashita, Koji Sakurai, Masataka Nita, Shinji Otsuka, Fumio Ito, Megumi Takano, Osamu Murata, and Shinichi Goto. So yeah, there's a few names actually there that I'm not familiar with. Obviously your main, familiarity people are Takanobu Mitsuyoshi, Yuzo Koshiro, Ryuji Ichi, and Osamu Murata.
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like, again, Osamu Murata, Ryuji Ichi has composed the majority of these pieces of music, maybe even more so than Osamu Murata for Shenmue 2, from what we've heard.
Yeah, and I guess Ryuji and Osamu are probably a bit more active, aren't they, in terms of being public, social media, those sorts of things. I mean, Ryuji obviously did his streams a while ago, which were really good. Watch the VODs on those if you haven't done, because he goes through and plays Shenmue 1 and 2 all the way through, having not played them for quite a long time, if my memory serves me correctly. Mm-hmm. And then was it in Shenmue World Issue 2, Osamu Murata, you interviewed him?
I did. I'll remember that. Great interview. If you've not read that for a while, dig that issue out again and have another little read. It's very interesting.
They're both still really active in game music, in other projects, even to this day, in fairness to them. I don't know so much about the others that are in that list. I couldn't tell you. But it might be worth a dig around on Google and digging around to see if any of them still are at Sega or doing other things. I don't know. But yeah, there's a massive breadth of talent there with the Shenmue music, and it definitely shows.
For sure, man. In between sections, so basically the running order of the show is we're going to start with Aberdeen, we're going to move into Wanchai, then later Kowloon and Guilin, and dispersed between each of these areas, we're going to go through the forest voting that we conducted over on shenmuedojo.com, where we're asking viewers, listeners, to take part in this poll to sort of determine which is your favourite piece of forest music. So obviously we know they don't actually have names, but they're sort of numbered: Forest 1, Forest 2, Forest 3, Forest 4 and Forest 5. Very iconic pieces of music to play whilst you're walking with Shenhua through Guilin. And yeah, we're going to be having the results of those votes interdispersed, if that's the right word, between these sections of music. So, Matt, let's get stuck in. We're going to go straight to Aberdeen first. Do you want to set the scene a little bit? Obviously, your picks are going first, but just Aberdeen, just how do you feel about once Rio steps off that boat and you've just had the iconic introduction music to the game, and now Rio's stepping into Aberdeen for the first time, and I don't know, can you remember how you felt hearing the music of the little pier there and whatnot?
I can, because it's initially quite welcoming when you obviously see the musicians, you chuck them a few dollars, they point you on the way to Wan Chai. When you get through past the Free Stay Lodge, I think that's when the enormity of what you have got in front of you opens out. Obviously you've got the cutscene with the arm wrestling and Joy and all the rest of it, but what the music conveys here for me is this sense of scale and what you're looking at, walking through. And as it changes and you go through the cutscenes in the early part of the game as well, it starts to convey a sense of sort of being lost in an unfamiliar place, but also a sense of danger as well. I mean, Rio obviously gets his bag stolen very early on. He gets into a fight with the Poison Brothers pretty soon after that as well, and then beats the living heck out of Sam, Larry, and Coolsey to get his bag back. And that's with all within the first half an hour, and you've gone from that epic opening, that boat, getting into the docks, that initial introduction, and then the scale of where you're going, and then the sort of the danger and almost unfamiliarity of a brand new foreign country to Rio. And that what Shenmue 2 does through the music so well is convey that sense of, Debuita, you're a big fish in a small pond. Here, you're a small fish in a very big pond, and it shows.
Nice. So, Matt, what's your first piece of music here for the area?
So, this, I think, is quite a popular piece of music. Queen Street Day, it's that introduction when you cross over on the walk to Wan Chai it's just brilliant. And yes, it was a shame in the original sort of HD releases, the music was slightly off. I think there was a patch to fix it on PC from the modding community. But yeah, it's probably one of my favourite pieces of Shenmue 2 music.
Welcome back. That was Queen Street Day. Now, I'm going to be picking Workers' PIER Day for my area pick here, Matt. So this is obviously, as you've just passed that first little bit of PIER, you've had the sort of the arm wrestling cutscene that's just triggered, and then Rio's wandering now headfirst into essentially this brand new epic city. You've got Pigeon Park over a little bit yonder after you bump into Joy and whatnot. And I think this area piece of music, like I say, it's one of my favourites of the area, to be honest. It's just so iconic, and instantly, as soon as you hear this piece of music in a moment, it'll take you all the way back to Aberdeen and Shenmue 2 for sure. Welcome back. That was Workers' PIER Day. A couple of pieces of day music so far to start us off with. So the way that we're going to be structuring this, we've had the area music. We're going to move into some cutscene pieces next, Matt. So we're going to pick a piece of music from a cutscene each now. And obviously we're still in Aberdeen. What's your first cutscene pick?
So this one has always appealed to me. I remember playing the game for the first time back in the day. I was 14, into my rock music. Still am into my rock music these days as well, in fairness. But you're walking along and you hear that sort of that rock scream, almost like Iron Maiden type voice kick in. And then you see Joy shoot across on her motorbike, cutting Rio off. And it just sets the sort of the tone for her really, really well. And I'm a sucker for a good rock song. And this is a very good rock song that is Joy's theme.
You'll never meet any woman the likes of her. She's a winch rider, sweet aroma in the air. It's no joke, she's a god on a pair of wheels. She passes by in the blank of an island. No, you can't ever stand to keep your head from looking back. 'Cause you see a fantasy's a building up inside your dreams. You wanna touch her skin's like her precious stone not to breathe. Before you know it, you're on your knees upset to dance the sweet. Turn in the corner, he stomps on a metal machine. And you're drunk on 10 special races down the road. Just one little look and you'll be begging for more. She passes by in the blank of a night, and no, you can't ever stand to keep your head from looking down. Cause you see a fantasy's building up inside your dreams. Wanna touch her skin's like a precious stone not to breathe. Before you know it, you're wrong and it's upset to taste the sweet. She's a god's on a pair of wheels. She passes by in the black of a night. No, you can't ever stand to keep your head from looking back. Cause you see a fantasy's a building up inside your dreams. You wanna touch her skin's like a precious stone not to breathe. Before you know it, you're wrong and it's upset. That's the street. No, you can't ever stand to keep your head from looking back. Cause you see a fantasy's a building up inside your dreams. She's so fine.
Welcome back. That was Joy's theme from Shenmue 2 cutscene there. It's funny actually that when you think about that piece of music, it's being sung by what sounds to be like a Japanese rock star, but he's obviously, it's sung the majority of it in English, like "You'll never meet any woman the likes of her." It's quite interesting. Like, I'm assuming that was composed specifically for Joy and the game. It's not a piece of music that's available elsewhere, right?
I mean, I would guess so. It's got that almost, I don't want to say 80s hair metal. It's probably not quite the tone, but it's definitely got that 80s vibe to it in terms of the rock music vibe at the time, the sort of voice, the guitar tone and everything behind it. So not just performed obviously in a certain way, but I think it's very deliberate in the sound that they've gone for that as well, given that obviously Shenmue is set in the sort of mid to late 80s, and that song just fits that sort of that musical era of the time as well, certainly in the rock era, like the rock scene, if you like.
And we know Yu Suzuki loves his rock as well, so I'm pretty sure that probably gave him a bit of a smile hearing that.
Yeah, I reckon so.
But yeah, so my cutscene piece for Aberdeen is unusual one, actually. I tried to dig a little bit deep into the music there and not go for like the main obvious pieces of music that people would probably expect us to be playing. So I've actually selected a piece of music that's just entitled here, Chasing the Heavens. So if you remember, just before Ryo and Ren start running up into the scaffolding and they fall off from the top there with the action QT and Ryo drops the mirror on the top of the van there's a little bit of a chase scene. So depending on who you decide to pick, whether you would pick Cool Z, Sam Larry or Ren, and Ren's obviously the fastest, just burns off down the Aberdeen road there. This piece of music is playing in the background and I love it. It really does give you a little bit of adrenaline hearing this piece of music. And yeah, I mean, at the time it kind of catches off guard when everyone starts sprinting off and then you've got to decide to chase and hopefully track down one of the Heavens members here. But this piece of music definitely gets your blood pumped, I'd say. Welcome back. So we're moving swiftly into the shop pieces now, Matt. Well, shop/place is what I structured this category to be. So what's your first shop in Aberdeen?
So in Aberdeen, it's the Big Catch Tackle Shop, which actually contains a little bit of lore around Wong, which is easily missable, actually, in terms of his background and who he is and how he falls into trouble and everything else. And that song just, I don't know, it reminds me of that, but also it's one of those little things I think you can miss quite easily within Shenmue 2, and even Shenmue 3 are very much in keeping with the tone of the rest of the game.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, with the fishing aspect in Shenmue 3, do you think this was like the early inkling that we might become a fisherman at some point with this tackle shop?
It's a question to actually ask Yuzuki at any point.
Hmm.
Yeah, were you looking at putting in a fishing minigame in Shenmue 2? Because it obviously had the scope to do it. I mean, even Shenmue 1 did, I guess, with the harbour. But in Shenmue 2, I guess you could have had it as a secondary job to obviously the crate carrying, lucky hit, and obviously the gambling as well. So I'd love to ask and find out if that was ever in the works.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, a lot of these shops that are found in Shenmue 2 don't actually really serve a purpose other than just an NPC behind a desk that can interact with, give you questions and stuff. But something about the shop, whether it's the Sega Bass fishing poster in the background or, you know, something about it just sort of felt like it was more of a shop than not, if that makes sense. Welcome back. That was Big Catch Tackle Shop. Piece of music there that sounds familiar to me as a piece of music that could be found within Shenmue 3. A lot of these pieces had been reused throughout various shops and whatnot in Shenmue 3 as well, along with some brand new tracks, of course, in Shenmue 3. But if some of these do sound familiar, based on like a playthrough of Shenmue 3, I'm sort of, as I'm listening to these pieces of music, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm sure that's in Shenmue 3 as well. And it probably is.
It definitely is somewhere. I think it's in Niaowu, but I'd have to really rack my brains as to where in Niaowu it plays.
Yeah. So my shop or place that I've selected for Aberdeen is Blue Sky Garden. Now, obviously, quite a random place to sort of just randomly walk into, I suppose. You have to go up those stairs, but I suppose those stairs are sort of like, oh, I wonder what's up here. Sort of like inviting, aren't they? When you walk past them, you kind of want to go up there and see what's going on. And this is a sort of a semi-restaurant cafe that peels off there. There's the guy in the tuxedo playing darts that you can interact with as well. And then just outside on the balcony there is the little cafe, and there's actually at least one bonus cutscene with FANGMEI and Eileen that's very missable as well, with Chowan Sign. I think you do the Chowan Sign there, and if you've met Eileen, I think you have to have met Eileen as well. Her and FANGMEI are sharing a cup of tea, which is quite a cool cutscene, if you remember that.
I do remember that. Again, easily missable.
Very easily missable. And yeah, this is Blue Sky Garden. So that was Blue Sky Garden. It's got sort of like a harbour type of feel. Felt like when I was hearing that, almost Shenmue 1 Yokosuka Harbour vibes with sort of the way that the music sort of plays, the keyboard and whatnot.
You could definitely imagine that being in like say they made the harbour bigger. Obviously, you've got the cafeteria and the lounge, but had they had like another area next to it, you could imagine that music playing in that made up area that I'm doing in my head right now. And
yeah, I know what you mean.
Sort of fitting in with that sort of the other music that plays within the cafeteria and obviously the lounge.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was thinking as well in my head, like cafeteria vibes or Alpha Trading Office kind of. I feel like I've heard a similar sounding type of music at the harbour. I couldn't pinpoint exactly where it plays, but it just reminded me of it, actually. It might even be a cutscene I'm thinking of. But yeah, so we're going to move into our Forest Poll rankings now. So thank you very much again for everyone that entered this poll. We actually had, I think, 61 voters. So not as many as the poll that we did in the Music Special 1, but also this is very, very niche.
Yes.
with the specific Forest piece of music that is your favourite, I suppose. So we're going to be reeling off each of the ranks as we go through the show. And the first rank here, obviously the rank 5, which is, I don't want to say the least favourite, because I think people really struggle with this poll because all 5 pieces are amazing, right? Which is also one of the reasons why I wanted to do a poll like this, just to make sure that we get all 5 pieces of the Forest music in the show. But I won't keep you waiting any longer. Rank 5 ended up being Forest 1. Which, I don't know, is that surprising, Matt, or not? I mean, out of the 5, it probably is my least desirable. It's still amazing.
Yeah.
But like the other 4 probably are better. I don't want to I don't want to use these words because it's not a bad song at all. It's amazing.
I mean, all 5 are good. And you're in quite a privileged position, aren't you, when you're sat there going, actually, all 5 of these are pretty good tracks, and then sorting them into an order is quite a challenge in itself. So while obviously it's like the worst of an exceptionally good set of tracks, I think it finishing 5th is right. It's certainly my opinion, but that doesn't make it a bad track at all. It's still a brilliant piece of music.
It is, and we've got a little bit of extra information that's courtesy of George Kitchen. Obviously, he's just been to Japan. He's been sharing a few things on the Discord. He actually met up with Osamu Murata, played a little bit of music in front of him, which I'm sure is an absolutely insane, special moment for him, and Osamu Murata extremely inviting there as well. But he came into the Discord and actually said that Osamu actually composed 4 of the 5 tracks that we're going to be ranking here. So he actually did Forest 1, and I'll let you know later in the show which one Ayuzo Koshiro did. But yeah, this is Forest 1. talk about. That was rank 5 with Forest 1 there. Matt, we're going to move into Wanchai now, and I don't think we can enter Wanchai, and I mean, we may have picked this track as one of our picks anyway, but I'm going to save the dilemma of picking this over other things, and we're going to play it now as the introduction to Wanchai. This is Waves of Morning Haze. Welcome back. So, Matt, after hearing Waves of Morning Haze, which is possibly, it is top tier Shenmue music, right? It's one of the best. I know it's Casey's favourite from the Sega Lounge as well. But hearing that music, picturing Wan Chai, and what we're going to essentially talk about in a moment with the pieces of music that we've picked, do you want to, again, set the scene for Wan Chai now?
Oh, I mean, that song on its own, Waves of Morning Haze, it's iconic. It's absolutely iconic with that sweeping shot across the Hong Kong harbour going over Wan Chai. It's an exceptional piece of music, but sort of it represents everything about Wan Chai, the diversity of Wan Chai, the people of Wan Chai, just everything together. It fits. You go into this from this harbour that's dangerous and unfamiliar into then the hustle and the bustle of what is essentially a city centre. But they are so different. The quarters are so different from each other. Green Market, you've got all like the shops either side. You've got the butchers in front of you. South Carmain's a bit quieter. Looks like more a residential area. You've got Lotus Park, and you've got Yantin Apartments, and all those areas that look like being redeveloped as well. Wise Man's, you've got the park, you've got the bistro. It's more of a proper shopping district. There's so much variety here in Wan Chai, and the areas now, compared to modern gaming, are quite small. But in that area or areas, it conveys such a lived-in feel that I think games even now struggle to do what Shenmue 2 did there, and the music just adds to that.
I completely agree, Matt. I mean, back in, when was this, 2001?
Yeah.
That honestly was the biggest open world that I'd ever experienced. I got lost so many times on my first playthrough, even my second playthrough, when, obviously you just done Kowloon and Guilin, and then you go back to play it for the next time, and then you sort of, you're lost again, or you discover little hidden shortcuts between the areas as well, that it's just a maze on your first playthrough. I know you can buy maps and stuff, but until you really get to grips with each of the areas, you like your South Colmaine, your Lucky Hit Court, Charm Quarter, sorry, even like the White Dynasty, just that little bit of market that sort of connects Golden Quarter and Lucky Charm Quarter together. And I think it even feeds into, where does it feed into as well? There's like a third one, is it Wiseman's?
Yes.
Or maybe
so.
that bit that actually comes down into Green Market Court as well. It's how they've designed all the intricate paths and stuff that go around there. Again, like you say, it just feels lived in. It feels like that is a world that exists in real life. Whereas like other worlds, they just feel big for big's sake. There's no real quality to the world. It's just copy and paste to sort of thing. Whereas this is like so intricate, so detailed. Shops, street lights, you got the cat on the balcony of the Come Over Guest House, when you can actually open the window and peer outside there, and you can see the cat. You can see people wandering around below. I love that detail at the time. That was like, it felt like I was actually on somewhat of a trip as well. I think that's kind of what Shenmue 2 does so well. It in Japan, it felt like you were at home in Dobuita.
Yeah.
That feels like a second home. Whereas like Hong Kong, it did it so well to make you feel like you were actually on a trip. You were lost. You didn't know where to go. You don't know anyone at all. Everyone you meet is a new person. Just the vibes at like night time, looking out the Come Over Guest House window, watching passers-by below, cannot be replicated for me in any game that I've played since.
Yeah, and that's how strongly I think Shenmue conveys its world, and there's a handful of games that come close, but there aren't many.
Not many at all. So Matt, what's your first musical pick for Wan Chai area?
So coming into the Wan Chai area, it's one of the first areas that you come across. However, now we're going into the nighttime stuff. It's Green Market Quarter at nighttime, and what I particularly like about the music's quite chilled, it's quite calm, but actually the area is full of lights everywhere, people everywhere, the noise of traders, the noise of the martial arts school, and the music adds another layer of complexity to what is a very busy area. It almost gives like almost a light and shade side of it, which I think is really well communicated through the song. Brilliant.
Right. So my area pick now for Wanchai is actually Wise Men's Quarter Day. So we've gone back to the daytime themes, but I just picked this one out of all the quarter themes because I just think, again, it's another iconic piece. As soon as you hear this piece of music, you'll know instantly where you are in the game with this piece of music. You spend quite a lot of time there, I suppose, because obviously there's a lot to do on the way to Scarlet Hills, speaking to some of the shop owners there in the antique stores, the martial arts store. If you're a particular pawn shop consumer or whatever, you want to go in the... That sounded weird, actually, saying pawn shop consumer, but you know what I mean.
I know
if
what you mean.
You're selling off your capsule toys and trying to make some money back, you're in this area basically quite a lot. So yeah. Right, welcome back. That was Wise Men's Quarter Day. We're moving into the cutscene pieces now, Matt, and we've both picked a particular cutscene piece. Actually, there's so many cutscenes when you think about it in the one chai portion, because you're sort of covering the latter part of disc 1 and the start, well, pretty much the whole of disc 2, right? Yeah. That's literally is one chai is like the second half of disc 1 and all of disc 2, albeit you do go back to Aberdeen again in disc 2 as well. But yeah, so many cutscenes, Matt. What have you gone with?
So I've gone for maybe a slightly different pick, I guess, but you are hunting the wood at this point. And Jianmin is teaching you the iron palm. And this is the music that plays when you're beating the tree to try and cover the ground in leaves. And you have the old VMU beeping at you every time that you get a successful hit into it. I just find it's quite a epic piece of music for what is essentially a training montage almost, but it's really cool.
Did you struggle with this tree the first time you did this, Matt?
I probably did the first time because you sort of got to work out the timing and how it all sort of comes together. But when you get the power all the way up, so that final orb's in the red and he absolutely smashes it, that's really satisfying.
Yeah, and then when Jianmin hits it, just touches it rather. It's iconic again. Right, so my cutscene piece of music that I've gone for here is a little bit later in the latter stages of disc 2, where you're starting to learn a bit about Shuing, about FANGMEI. She's sat at a desk, sort of peering over a photograph of her and what we now know as her brother, younger brother at the time. You know what I mean? The photograph depicts a younger Shuing and a younger ZIMING, and she sheds a tear, drops the photo on the floor. Rio looks at it. He's a bit taken aback, actually, at what he's seen as he sort of came back home that evening. And then there's a little bit of a discussion. I believe it might be the following morning. I'm not 100%, but FANGMEI comes into the room and sort of tells Rio a little bit about this photograph of ZIMING and Shuing, and this is a piece of music that plays, and it's a beautiful piece of music, actually.
Yeah.
Welcome back. That was a piece of music entitled ZIMING DISUSSION, the cutscene with FANGMEI. So, Matt, we're moving on swiftly now into the shop/place piece of music again for Wanchai. So we both picked, again, a shop by the looks of it. Which shop did you pick?
So I went for ZHANGYU Barber Shop. Again, there's something about the wood in Shenmue 2 and the different activities that Ryo gets up to, from obviously talking to Zhonghuan, giving that letter back to Marshal Zhongzhu. I'm going to have to pronounce that name correctly, but you know where I'm going with it. Obviously, Jianmin and the tree. You obviously save Guixang as well from the land sharks, but this is an interesting take, this one, because it's very deceiving, this part of the game, because you sit in that barber's chair and the QTE comes up and you instantly press it. Everybody pressed it. I don't care who you are in life, you press that QTE, you're like, but how did I fail it? Why did I fail it? And the music sets like a very sinister tone to it initially when he's sharpening that blade. But then when you finish a QTE and get up, it lightens itself up a bit. It's like it almost follows that mood and Ryo's thought processes at that time, and it communicates it brilliantly.
I definitely did it, Matt. I probably did it about 5 times before I realised what was going on. You do have to pay attention to what ZHANGYU is actually saying there. And I feel daft for not at the time, but obviously I was only like 12, 13 or whatever, so hopefully you can forgive me on that. Welcome back. That was ZHANGYU's Barbershop, and just hearing that, Matt, it's reminded me that obviously when you're actually during the cutscene, it sort of transitions into the sort of landy, menacing dun 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 dun. That sort of dream when Ryo's dreaming about his father and all those sort of things back in the first game. It sort of transitions into that, and yeah, it's definitely an iconic piece of music in light of that.
Yeah, and that transition in from sort of what is initially a little, I'd say almost welcoming is probably the wrong word, I'm not sure, but then it goes into that quite sinister, dark, then blades being sharpened moment, and that for me is really good.
Yeah, for sure. So my shop piece of music, I don't really have a story for this. I just quite like the piece of music that's with it. So it's Beautiful Shine Jewelers, and it's actually one of the stores. I want to say many, but I don't think there is too many stores that you can actually enter on the Golden Quarter. But this is one of them. If you're one of the people that just wander around going into all the stores and just having a little nosy, even though you can't really buy anything or do too much, like I say, apart from just sort of ask the NPCs questions. But yeah, on my first playthrough especially, I just went into every store that I could find. If there was a door, I'd try it out. If I couldn't get in, I'd move on. But if I could get in, this piece of music that plays in this jeweler's a random jewelers that probably most people never even entered, but it has such a great piece of music that I think is worth sharing. Okay, welcome back. So we're moving into our next forest rank in the poll. So this is going to be rank 4, moving, well, I guess up the ranks, are we now?
Yeah.
In terms of your guys' favourite piece of forest music. And this next piece actually is the piece of music that I mentioned earlier that was composed by Yuzo Koshiro. So very interesting. This came in at rank 4, and it is Forest 5, Matt. So it's actually a piece of music that I play on my own sort of YouTube channel at the end of the videos quite a lot. Actually, I've used this probably about the last 10 years as like sort of the outro to a lot of my YouTube videos. I love this piece. I'm kind of surprised actually that it's rank 4. I personally have put it maybe second. If I could conduct the results, I would have put this at second, but it's actually come in at rank 4. I don't know if that surprises you, Matt.
A little bit. I quite like the sort of the piano tone to it, and yeah, it's one of those that I think would be higher in my own sort of mind, but again, I think it's probably superseded by some of the other ones. I do like it though. I think the piano is very emotive, sets the scene really well actually for the walk through the forest, and also you've got the conversation with Shenhua going as well, haven't you, and some of the chats that are going on there, and I think it just adds a nice sort of peaceful layer to some of those conversations as well.
Yeah. These are the pieces that are very emotive, actually, very
Yeah.
will get you emotional, especially towards the end of the game there. So we finished with Wan Chai now. I'm going to be taking the journey into Kowloon next, which Kowloon again, Matt, we've just been through this insane, especially for the time, like we mentioned, huge open world city of Wan Chai and Aberdeen. Like the combination of them two could be a game on its own, but we're reaching Kowloon now, which is like this, again, a huge city, especially with all the buildings and all the different floors. There's so much depth to, again, what you probably would consider as a small area now in a modern day game. But at the time, it's not just like an open world, it's sort of like a vertical world, because you've got all these different floors, you know, just the sparseness of each of these buildings and all the stores. I don't even think to this day I've probably been in every door or every room or every shop or of these buildings. I'm sure there's somewhere that I've never actually took Rio into, because like I say, this if you were to put the verticality of all of these buildings on a flat level, I'm sure then you would realize like this is a massive space. So Matt, again, do you want to set the scene for us at the start of Kowloon? You've just travelled from Wan Chai to Kowloon here and on the bus. Absolutely epic trip, isn't it, really, with the way that the camera pans with up the skyscrapers and whatnot.
Yeah, and the plane comes over the top of it as well, and it sets up for like that introduction music sets up for what is quite an epic piece of storytelling. It's very story driven. It's Kowloon. It's probably the most story-driven area, I think, in any Shenmue game across all three of them, if I'm being completely honest. I don't mind that at all. I'm quite happy with that. But what it starts to convey is this sense of, like you say, scale, but scale in a different sense. Kowloon, obviously, the Shenmue version is a section or inspired by the real Kowloon walled city, which has obviously been knocked down now. But that was full of crime, grime, dirt. It was almost like its own very enclosed, encapsulated community. And that music, the intro, captures that really well. But then coming into the areas, again, they all have their own distinctive little feels to it. The stand quarter, going by the name, is full of like shop stands everywhere, lucky hit boards. And the night theme, I don't know, it sets a hustle and bustle, but also an undertone of you're in an area that you probably just need to watch your back a tiny bit.
Welcome back. That was Stand Quarter Night. Sort of a theme that it's difficult with Kowloon because obviously you've got the day and the night themes, but obviously it depends where you are in the game and obviously which of these quarters you're at, whether you're there in the daytime or the nighttime. I feel like I don't hear that theme as much as some of the other themes in Kowloon. But yeah, like you say, that you can sort of hear with the sort of the spheres that are sort of playing in the background of that piece of music there. There are sort of these undertones of, like you say, look over your shoulder and very, you don't really know what's around the corner. I suppose that's the feel of Kowloon overall. There's a lot of like darker sounding music, especially later in the game when you're in those buildings and it's, you go in the ghost hall building or something, which thank God we're not going to play any of that music, but there's a very scary undertones in a lot of these buildings. Like you feel like you shouldn't be in them almost.
Yeah, and that's exactly the summary of Kowloon, actually. That it's almost that, like, you shouldn't really be here, but you've got to be here, and that's what I really like.
Yeah. My pick, I'm going to go for Dragon Street Night. So I feel like the day and the night themes of Dragon Street are probably the more recognisable. But yeah, I think I prefer out of the two the night theme. I think it's got just a more classy vibe to it, actually. Welcome back. That was Dragon Street Night, which hearing it again just reminded me, and speaking to Matt behind the scenes there, that is the piece of music that actually had that slight error, I think, originally when they released the soundtrack for Shenmue 3, right?
Yeah, they had the little skip. I don't know how that happened or whatever. As that little skip, and actually the version, because I use that as some of the stream music before we go live, and I've got the blooming version that skips. I need to put in the correct version. I just haven't got round to it, but it's a lovely piece of music.
It is a lovely piece of music. Yeah, at times you forget that these are in Shenmue 3 as well. You've got it's difficult for me to keep track of where they play in each of the games, but hearing that is Dragon Street Night. But when it plays in Shenmue 3, I'm not thinking as such like, why is Dragon Street Night playing? You know what I mean? It kind of works between the games in a sense.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Right, Matt, so cutscenes now in KOWLOON. Obviously, perhaps not... Well, these are great cutscenes. I was going to say perhaps not your favourite cutscene of KOWLOON, but the music that accompanies this cutscene. But maybe even it might be your favourite cutscene. I don't know. It's a good.
It's certainly up there because you've gone through this hard fight with Master Baihu, and you've then obviously finally taken him down. The black suit sort of part ways and everything. And you're going up the lift talking to Joy, and it just sounds really epic. Like that do. That's very much like a whole sort of achievement thing that you've reached some sort of milestone within the game, within Ryo's journey. And it fits that so well. I use it in some of my videos here and there actually as well. Yeah, it's a cracker, absolute cracker.
It definitely hypes you up for what's about to come as well. When you're heading up in the elevator to the 40th floor, it is incredible. Okay, my cutscene piece of music that I've selected for Kowloon is actually a lovely piece. Going through a lot of the pieces of music here to sort of decide what I wanted to play here, this one instantly stood out to me because it just gives me chills almost when I hear it. So a little bit of context, basically from memory, I believe this is the moment where it sort of fades to black as Rio's sort of fighting Donu. Obviously, Shuing a few times before has shown up to sort of save the day, like she did at the big market QT fight with where it sort of ends with Yuan tripping over. Shuing was there to save the day, and again here she's seemingly there to save the day to rescue Rio after sort of losing to Donu. Even though you don't really see it all happens off shot with the fade to black. But basically, Rio wakes up in the Thousand White Covent. So it's the first sort of time that I was inside this. I think you can actually enter this in free roam, this little area.
Yes.
But it sort of took me by surprise because I remember like the first playthrough being like, where the hell am I? Because it didn't feel like Kowloon. It's very much a very nice cathedral. You got the stained glass windows. You've got the nuns walking up and down. You've got the big statue of the lady holding the baby or whatever it is. I think that was like censored or something. Was it in the re-releases?
Yes, it was, and there's difference between the PAL version and the Japanese version. I think, if my memory serves me correctly, from back in the day when they were released, but I could be wrong. Or was it the Xbox version? And
It could be that,
yeah.
Yeah,
It could be that. I could be
wasn't there?
misremembering. Yeah, there was quite a few changes actually, wasn't there? And then again, the re-releases, there was other changes around some of the other areas as well. I can't remember them all.
Yeah, but like I say, the piece of music, absolutely incredible. And before we even play it now, I'm sort of getting goosebumps because it's such a lovely piece, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Beautiful piece there, Thousand White Covent. Right, let's move into Kowloon's shop/places section now, Matt. We've each selected, I guess, a place for this one, not really a shop. What's your pick?
It's hard with shops, isn't it, in Kowloon, because they're all sort of opened out within the buildings. There's there's not too many areas where you walk in and like the traditional shops, like in your Wan Chai or whatever. But this one, it just stands out for me, and it sort of leads into the the stalking, if you want, and also a funny cutscene where Ren goes to boot the elevator and it opens, he falls in. It's three birds building roof, so it sort of counts.
Again, with that sort of like, I want to call them spheres. I don't know what the technical term is, but it's like that sort of orchestral backgroundness to it. So you've obviously got the on top percussion and the piano or whatever, and then you've got the sort of like sustain sound in the background, and that bit, once that kicks in for that piece of music, so good.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
My piece of music, I went with I'm trying to go like iconic pieces, recognizable. We want to sort of not do a consistent deep cuts of pieces of music throughout the show. We want to sort of get some of these iconic pieces that I'm sure you all instantly recognize. And yeah, very much so with this next one. This is REN'S Hideout. Welcome back. That was REN'S Hideout. Just thinking out loud, Matt, you do hear that quite a lot if you go into REN'S Hideout, but I feel like a lot of the time in REN'S Hideout is like cutscenes, but does that play? I can't think.
It does. It does definitely play. But it's more associated, I think, with when you're going through the tapes.
The tapes, yeah.
And Rio's going through the tapes, and there's a million of them. You get to the last one. But yeah, this is. I like the piece of music. It's quite. It's very Ren, I think.
Yeah,
probably the way I can describe it.
Definitely agree with you there. Which brings us to our mid-section forest ranking. So this is rank 3 now. A piece from Osamu Murata. In fact, he's done all of these now. Obviously, the last piece was Yuzo Koshiro, but Osamu Murata did the rest of these forest pieces. And funnily enough, coming in at rank 3 is Forest 3, which also, I don't know where this actual title's come from, but it's also called Wizard Trees, apparently.
Ah.
Right, so we're entering what is my personal favourite section of music, the GUILIN section. And before we get stuck into what we've actually selected, I don't think it would be right without hearing the fantastic GUILIN introduction music before we get stuck in. Welcome back. That was the introduction to GUILIN. Matt, can you again set the scene now for this GUILIN section of the show?
Do you know, that music's quite epic, isn't it?
It is really.
You come in on the boat, and you've got your Anderzu sort of telling you where to go to Bailu Village.
You must go.
Really epic. which is funny when you actually get into the section of GUILIN itself, and it's very calm, and it leads you into the sort of a because it actually, when it fades out as you get there, it does sort of calm down the music a little bit. But
well, Matt, you've got what as a quote or whatever, the calm before the storm. This is actually like the calm after the storm.
Yeah,
in a
very
sense
much
with GUILIN. you know, again, you just had what you would have assumed probably would have been the ending to Shenmue 2, the big build up there, the top of the Yellowhead building, the big fight with Donu, Landy going off in a helicopter, and then there's more. And I remember feeling like, oh my god, and there's more. And yeah, a killer section of the game here.
It's absolutely brilliant, and it sort of then, I guess, leads into the area pieces, which first one's mine, Languishan. I mean, you don't spend a lot of time here actually if you sort of just get on with the game, but more, I think, if you take your time to walk around, you know, the little stalls, the pawn shop, and a few areas, and talk to the people there, and you get to hear this piece of music in its entirety. It fits the feel of Guilin nicely, but I think it's a piece of music that's quite often missed and underrated a little bit.
Right, welcome back. That was Languishan. And yeah, really nice piece of music. You've just, again, this was like so fresh to me at the time, the first time I played Shenmue 2. I'd never seen anywhere quite like Guilin with the humongous mountains, green top mountains, and just how they've been sort of, I guess, eroded over time, like to get that shape. It's just somewhere that I'd never experienced in real life. Just living in the UK, you don't see mountains, green top mountains like that. So Shenmue 2 actually taking me to that part of the world just makes me want to go there in person as well, because obviously Guilin is a real life location, and seeing this little village, little kids playing, and it's so rural. You're talking about like epic city-based open world game up until this point, and then all of a sudden we're swept across into this sort of rural, tranquil village, and just paths and forests and stuff like that. And actually, my area piece of music, because we've essentially covered all 5 of these forest pieces, there isn't really a lot to choose from actually in terms of area music. But I know one piece of music that I'm sure a few people will be pleased that I've included in here. This is essentially another section of forest music. It's just not called forest music. It's actually called Cloudbird Trail. Another beautiful piece of music there. It's actually, that is the walk from Shenhua's house to the stone pit, right? That's Cloudbird Trail.
Yeah, it is. Again, it's one of those pieces of music that I think you don't pay it. I don't want to say it blends into the background, it's probably the wrong word, but it's one of those pieces of music you don't sit and appreciate at the time. You need to hear it in isolation away from the game, I think, to really appreciate it.
Because there's like a lot of conversation going on there that's like, at the time, is like, ooh, where's my father aspect coming along. Some really interesting. Actually, that's that conversation where you actually hear a little bit about the Emperor talking to Shenhua there. Right, Matt. Let's move into the Guilin cutscene pieces now, and we've absolutely picked two corkers, but I suppose we can't go far wrong really with the cutscenes in Guilin. But what's the piece of music that you've picked here?
I mean, this is quite a self-explanatory one. It's called the Shenmue Tree, and it's when you've arrived at Shenhua's house, and you have the music playing in the background, a panning shot around the Shenmue Tree, the zooming onto Ryo's face. They talk a little bit about the tree, and then it's playing just as you then get the flashback into Shenhua, or a version of Shenhua, for all we know, of her or her ancestors. I think Yu Suzuki confirmed that, didn't he, in the interview that you did? And you get that flashback, and it just, I don't know, it's that epic moment. And also there's a little bit of, finally, I found the Shenmue Tree.
And you've just heard what, like, the word Shenmue is for the first time. Yeah. Goosebumps ahead, guys. Right, welcome back. That was Shenmue Tree, and we're moving into my piece of cutscene music now. And this, again, another probably goosebump-inducing piece of music here. So this is as you're heading to the sort of the halfway cave where Ryo has to collect firewood and, has a little chat with Shenhua in front of the fire. Quite a few neat little scenes around here where you're showing photographs of previous friends and characters throughout Ryo's journey so far, and then Shenhua sitting on the tree singing. But before you actually reach that cave, one of the probably the best uses of cinematography in a video game that I've ever experienced in my life. The sort of sweeping shots throughout the valley with the sort of the river below. I think it's I can't quite remember the name of the river. Is it the Yingshui River below, I think? And you've got this sort of eagle that's essentially the camera's following the eagle, and it's so cool. And then it sort of zooms back, and I could even imagine Ryo doing these tai chi on the edge of the cliff there. So great, guys. As soon as you hear this piece of music, I'm sure it'll take you back to that scene in the game. Right, welcome back. So, because there's not really any shops or places in Guilin, I've just picked a bonus piece of music now. I don't think we could leave this Shenmue 2 music special without playing. This is SHENHUA'S House Daytime Piece.
Love it.
It's actually a nighttime piece as well, Matt. I don't know, which do you prefer, day or night?
I prefer the day for some reason. It's funny as
Yeah.
well, hearing that now. Obviously, you're near the end of Shenmue 2 by this point. There's a sense of finality about that music, Her House in the Day. Whereas you compare it to Shenmue 3, and you've got, I think, is it Place Where the Sun Sets playing in her house?
Yeah.
And it's a markedly different tone in Shenmue 3
True that.
to what you're getting in Shenmue 2, which sounds very final. You get into the end, you get into the end of the game, whereas in Shenmue 3, it's sort of a nice piece of music to hear you off to go off to your day into the village.
Yeah, when you're hearing that piece, actually, it takes me back to that where you sort of exploring the house a little bit, looking at her father's items, like the little pipe, the rock formation, the tapestry, the star sign book, all these awesome things. When I hear that piece of music, I can picture walking around and wanting to learn I think that's probably the beauty of the Guilin section. You kind of want to learn about Shenhua. You want to learn about what's going on in this little village and a house and sort of the history surrounding the mirrors and stuff. And the tree now you just discovered, it's very much an education, even though it's like a made up thing, if you know what I mean. It's
Yeah.
like you just want to learn about stuff. And I think Shenmue 2 again does that really, really well at teaching the player a lot of interesting things, story based things anyway. Right, Matt, so we're moving into the rank 2 of the Forest poll that was conducted again before the show. Thank you all for conducting this. This is kind of the runner-up as such of pieces of music. So we're just, if anyone hasn't been keeping up, we're down to either Forest 4 or Forest 2. And as soon as I say what is rank 2, then you'll know what's actually won the poll. So yeah, rank 2 is actually Forest 4.
Ooh.
Awesome piece of music, that.
Love that. And it's iconic, isn't it? You're walking down those paths, taking the right path, the wrong path. I don't know. It's very serene, is the way I would, because it's after the storm, isn't it? Where they've had the storm, the trees come down, and you're trying to find your way back home, and it's quite serene.
And you've got like the beams sort of
yes
coming through the trees, and the sort of the glittery sparkles of I guess rainwater or whatever from the storm, and it's just so it's so good. You can't put it into words.
Absolutely brilliant.
Right, so we've kind of finished the GUILIN section of music now, and we couldn't end the show without giving a little bit of love to the mini-games / jobs in the game. So we've each picked our personal favourite piece of music for each of the mini-games or jobs, as you were. For some reason, I've gone first on this map, but I've actually picked arm wrestling, which is also entitled Lionheart. Like that was the arm wrestling music from Shenmue 2. It's actually also this season's intro. I play this at the start of every show after the Let's Get Sweaty. Love it. It's one of my favourite pieces, just really does pump you up. I know it's obviously they've used it for the arm wrestling, and I guess you do need to be pumped up for the spamming of the A button there that you can actually feel in your muscles when you've tried to take on the guy that's broken like 99 arms or whatever. But I love it, considering that they've kind of just used that piece of music for essentially a minigame. Again, another epic piece of music.
Yeah, definitely. It's really cool. And they could use it anywhere else. I'm surprised does it pop up in Shenmue 3 anywhere? I can't remember.
I'm not sure, actually. Good question. Not off the top of my head, I can't think, but it might be like is it playing the Rose Garden?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I'm not sure.
Or I tell you what I'm thinking of, a trailer. A Shenmue 3 trailer, I think.
Ah.
Am I right with that, maybe?
You might be.
I feel like I can see one of the Rose Garden fighters like do some sort of a leg kick to that piece of music.
I'd have to dig around the trailers and confirm that or not. I can't remember.
But Matt, what was your piece?
Mine's a little bit ironic, just to finish things off. Carrying crates with our friend GUILIN, and the fact that he is arguably drunk on the job, shall we say. But actually, I don't mind the piece of music. It's just I think it's synonymous with a section of Shenmue 2 that is a bit of a meme in some respects, I guess. And
with the groans.
Like he shouts his directions like Mida and all this, and but then all of a sudden you're going left, right, what? Bang, drop. Oh dear.
We're putting it down.
Yes. Oh dear. The piece of music's okay. It's quite nice, but yeah, it's just I think it's synonymous with a section of the game that a lot of people just roll their eyes at now, I think.
Very good, very good. So obviously we all know what piece of forest music won the poll. Again, I think I've said this about 3 times now, but thanks everyone for voting. It really does, we really do appreciate the interaction, and obviously it does tailor the show somewhat to really fun discussion. What's your favourite Shenmue 2 forest track? So I'm just going to go read through the results now before we play the winner of the poll. So again, there were 61 votes across this particular poll. Coming at 5th ranking was Forest 1, that had 6.56% of the vote, which was essentially 4 voters. Forest 5 came in at rank 4 with 9.84% of the votes, that was 6 voters. Forest 3 at rank 3 was 19.67% with 12 voters. Forest 4 in the rank 2 slot was 26.23% with 16 votes, and yeah, sort of smashing it. It's not even a close one really in terms of the amount of votes that we've had. Was Forest 2 at the top rank with 37.70% of the votes there. 22 of you voted for Forest 2, and that is the piece of music we're going to play right now. Right, welcome back. That was Forest 2. Beautiful piece of music again by Osamu Murata. It is my favourite Forest piece. That's the one I personally voted for. Matt, which was it that you voted for?
It was as well, yeah.
Was it Forest 2 as well?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of those, out of those 5, everybody sort of agrees on, and then the rest they sort of argue over where the others sit in the top 5. But this is always the one that pretty much comes out on top with most of the community, at least.
For sure, man. So before we close the show, Matt, I've got a question for you. Just a little bit of fun now. Out of the entirety of Shenmue 2, what area has your favourite music, would you say? Is it Aberdeen, Wanchai, Kowloon, or Guilin?
Do you know, for me, I just think it's Wanchai. I think the variety of music for me, just, I don't know, it has calm, it has busy, it has threatening, it has all of those combinations of music, which I don't know, I find that really, as a listener, really intriguing. Whereas, for example, GUILIN, while the music is excellent, it's absolutely excellent. It's all very, it's not, I want to say one dimensional because it's probably not fair, but it doesn't have the breadth that I think a Wan Chai does. And that for me is why I think it's my favorite section.
That is a good point, to be fair. Like, I do tend to agree with you on that fact that there's such a variety of music. If you'd have asked me the question, it would have been GUILIN, just because I love all of the music in GUILIN, and it's possibly what gives me, like, again, the most sort of goosebumps. I just love listening to that piece of music, those pieces of music, and that is Shenmue for me. Really, when I hear those pieces of music, I just, it's why I'm so devoted to the series and so emotionally attached. These just things that happened in that last chunk of the game that rewrote my life, essentially. You know, it is made me who I am to this day, and those pieces of music just remind me of that, in a sense. But yeah, guys, let us know in the comments below, what is your favourite piece of music from Shenmue 2? What is your favourite area? Well, the music that you'll find in each of the 4 major areas there that we've covered today. And even let us know what your favourite piece of music is for minigames and jobs and stuff like that. But I think that would be really interesting. And potentially, depending on what you guys pick in the comments below, we could maybe tailor another Shenmue 2 music special in the future. In case you weren't aware, we did do a Shenmue 1 music special sort of this time last year. So hopefully this is going to be a yearly tradition, with next year being a Shenmue 3 music special, which in hindsight probably going to be like half a Shenmue 2 music special in a sense, because of the reuse of music. But I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully this has been a nice sort of stepping stone between the heavy discussion based episodes that we've been doing recently, especially recently with the Kickstarter updates. Been a lot of discussion actually in this season, less on the, I'd personally say, like the fun side of things, where we're sort of laughing and joking a little bit more. We've been sort of more serious. And I don't even know, guys, what do you prefer of me and Matt doing these sort of shows? Do you prefer the more serious side of discussion, or the lightheartedness that occasionally we do have? I'm thinking back to like the Christmas show with George Kitchen, where we were doing like Christmas jokes, and obviously when we were covering the anime and I was doing all the songs and stuff like that. I don't know if that's cringy or is that something that people actually like. Let us know in the comments below, guys. But that has sort of reached the conclusion somewhat of the Shenmue 2 music special. And I say somewhat because I've actually left a piece of music for the end to see us out. This is the music that plays in the tail end of Shenmue 2 in the cave in the stone pit, just as Ryo and Shenhua are looking at each other. Another iconic moment, I'm sure we'll all agree. And the story goes on, ... music plays in the background. So yeah, thanks very much for listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed that show, and we'll see you with a brand new episode very, very soon.
Take care, guys. Have a good one.
Ah, look at the time.